it's the amount of THC that is now versus then is very much like that picture, that THC is really the giant here, and marijuana, and what people do about smoking a joint. It's all about wax, dabs. I mean, that's where we're at. It's all about the edibles, and they have a higher THC content. The other thing is that it's not about experimentation. So what is experimentation? Experimentation is that I try it once and I find out if I like it or not. That's it. If I get high and I like to get high, guess what? Experiment over. I like to get high. If I like the way it makes me feel, experiment's over. And so the myth is that experimentation goes on. That, he's an adolescent. He's just experimenting. It's okay. Well, you have somebody that is actually really addicted, and it's not about experimentation, but the views of marijuana are different. There's psychosis with some of the high potency with THC, and that is not about experimentation. That's a true problem, and some of the long-lasting effects that you see with marijuana, to the developing brain. Just imagine, that their brain is still trying to develop. And now you're playing mad scientists with their brain. So, these are some of the myths that the general public were not educated about, this initiative, and they didn't know. And I know some organizations work really hard to educate, and still work, Kevin Savet's work, and some of the other organizations that are really trying to educate the public. SAM's Smart Approaches to Marijuana, is one of the groups that is out of Colorado and really trying to educate people on what it means, what marijuana is, what THC is. So it's really a whole different world now than what people think it is. And I think that's the biggest thing, is to educate the parents and the public of really what we're dealing with now. And if you haven't read Ben Court's book, about the marijuana industry, it's like Big Tobacco all over again. It's Big Tobacco 2.0 when you're looking at marijuana and what that industry is, and it's a lot different than thinking about a couple people growing a few plants in their backyard. So I think that we need to change our views on what marijuana is, and then we need to look at what really are we looking at in California. Now, I think large in part, other than walking outside, and the smell, we haven't seen a tremendous change in California. In most of it, we still haven't seen tax revenue come in. We still haven't seen a lot of, shops, pop up. That will come. It will come. It wasn't like Colorado, which it was like overnight, because it was the first. We're not the first. We were the first for medical marijuana, but we're not the first for recreation. So we don't get all that tourism money, except for Disneyland, that Colorado did for the cannabis industry. So let's talk about, so here's the campaign cash. So you can see quite a bit more money went into to support. And when you're talking about billionaires coming in, and 464 that were coming through were, I stopped counting at 14 initiatives. So there was about 14 other initiatives that were being pushed upon us. Some of them had to do with, the tax revenue go towards free preschool for everybody. Some of the tax revenue went into helping the environment, some of the tax revenue. So there's all these different proposals of the tax revenue for California. And so it was very much a race. And there was a fight between these billionaires of who would win. So obviously, Sean Parker's initiative, one out of all of those other initiatives, to be the champion initiative and to be the champion proposition. And so I'll break down what that means as far as what are the effects of that initiative and what was that proposal that we went to DPA that they gave to Sean Parker. So no, I did not meet with Sean Parker. No, I didn't meet with the Russians. No, I didn't, so all this is done by a third party. No, I'm just kidding. But the proposal that we gave them was this: 80% of the tax revenue would go towards treatment. That we said that is the best move, that 80% of the tax revenue would go towards treatment. Now, that borderline, that's a little bit between insanity to ask for 80% of tax revenue for any substance. What is the amount of money that we get from the liquor industry that goes towards treatment today? Goose egg. And so we're asking for 80%. So it's a lot easier to ask for 80% when they're trying to get something passed than go in afterwards. And that was the issue that we faced. If we opposed it, we couldn't come in later and say, now we want to talk to you about, now that you passed it, let's talk about tax revenue and that going towards treatment. Wouldn't happen. That's what we're facing with the liquor industry. Now, how we did that when the liquor industry wanted to legalize alcohol, it would be different. We tried 20, 30 years ago to do nickel a drink to go towards treatment. Guess what? Didn't go anywhere. The liquor industry is very strong. That's the reality. And the marijuana industry is going to be even as strong. And the liquor industry is going to jump in with the marijuana industry. They're already starting now. You saw it was something when the liquor industry jumped in with energy drinks. It's going to be a whole different world when they're jumping in with marijuana or cannabis-infused products. So that's coming. So it's a brave new world, and that is coming. So we got our proposal back, and so I'm thinking, if we don't get 80%, maybe we'll get 5%. I'll be happy with 5. I'll be happy with 5% of the tax revenue coming in. It's supposed to be, $1 billion. Or 800,000. So, or 800 million. Excuse me. So so 5%. That's not bad. 10%. 20%. So I'm like negotiating. We get the proposal back, and they said 60% of the tax revenue. 60%. So now our initial proposal was that would go for adults and adolescents. They came back and said, no. My guess was, I didn't have a conversation about this, but my guess was that adolescents and youth sell better than adults when you're talking about, the money going towards something. It probably plays better towards audiences, I'm guessing. So I think that's why they stuck with youth. But they did, I was really appreciative. And they said that, they said two things that I thought were great. One was, we'll reassess in 4 years, and if there's an adolescent treatment system built, then we are going to go and open it up for adults. So that's a possibility. The second thing, they did us a huge favor. They did not define youth. So I said, hey, isn't youth defined as 30 and younger, right? Failure to launch, come on, and I'm like, it's like Jerry Maguire, who's with me, and there was nobody with me on that, so didn't go. But looks like we're heading towards, in stakeholder meetings now, 26. So we're using ACA as a guide to say 26 is youth. So youth, young adults, adolescents. So that is something. So the other thing is that we were looking at, the thing that concerned our organization is that it's not about the substance. It's not about opioids. It's not about marijuana. Not even about alcohol. It's about addiction. That's what it's about. And so if we keep talking about substance specific, we're going to have issues because guess what happens? The funding follows that. So guess, and then it really ties our hands when we're trying to get treatment. Because then does he have more of a marijuana problem than he does an alcohol problem? And, and then you're trying to stay within the guidelines, and diagnose, and then what if the code and all of that. And so we said, you know what? Let's just make it for all drugs. Let's just say drugs only. And that's what we proposed to them. Is we said all drugs, including marijuana. And they said yes. So that was another huge win. So we didn't get the 80%, we got 60. Great. We didn't get for everybody, but we got for youth. And we got for drugs. And I thought that was important, that it wasn't substance specific.